Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Okay, firstly, apologies. New year, same problems. So I'm going to buy a new laptop and I'm going to buy a new projector next weekend. Will you help me? No. Okay, I'll get myself. Okay. Yeah, we seem to have problems. We're going to try and get a screen if we can and connect to that. So what we'll do is, because we've lost some time now, unfortunately, we'll just jump straight in. So what did we do last time? Can we remember? Hanji?
Hukam.
Hukam. Which body was that?
Second.
Second, yeah. Okay. So what did it say? So let's just recap. So we're doing Jap Ji Sahib because Jap Ji Sahib is very important to us. As well as doing Jap Ji Sahib, equally and more importantly is understanding what we're saying when we do Jap Ji Sahib. And Jap Ji Sahib has some very deep meanings, as we know. And that's why we did a pre-Jap Ji Sahib program. We looked at the times, why Guru Nanak Dev Ji wrote that Bani, why that Bani was important, what else was going on in the world at the time. And some of the things we're now talking about in Jap Ji Sahib are beginning to make sense because we've now linked them back to other elements of, call it history, other religions, other thoughts of the time. So we started off with the Mool Mantra, and of course we said that in Sikh everything centers around Ek, Vaheguru, Ek, or God. So we did the Mool Mantra. We talked about how the Mool Mantra is a description of Vaheguru. We then did the first body, which sort of asked some of the ways, or looked at some of the ways that people try to get close to God or become satyal, or become truthful. And those ways Guru Nanak Dev Ji rejected as not. They might get your body close, they might address your needs from a physical point of view, but from a spiritual point of view, those things like bathing, keeping fast, not eating, satisfying your hungers, and having lots of knowledge didn't necessarily get you close to Vaheguru. So Maharaj in that body makes it quite clear, in order to do that, you have to follow the hukam. And it was hukam arjai chalana nanak likhya na. That the hukam, the will or the command of God, or how God makes the whole system work, is within his hukam. He is the hukami, he is the commander. And everybody else must follow that hukam. Now we did say it was a bit like a fish in the ocean, that you're in the ocean, that's the hukam. We're in this life, we're born, we can't choose who our parents are, we can't choose who our family is, we can't choose what colour eyes we have, we can't choose where we were born, what happened to us. But in between that we have some element of free will. But Maharaj says where you do have free will, exercise that free will in accordance to how Vaheguru wants us to use that free will. So do good things rather than bad things.
So what we talked about was hukam, and we said that everybody is bound by that same hukam, that there isn't an option to opt out of hukam. And because we're all bound by it, sometimes the question emerges, well, if Vaheguru predetermines what our destiny is, what is the point? Why should we? The answer to that question really is that it's not an option, because there is only one rule in this game, and that is hukam. And it's not like, if you don't fancy doing PE, you get your parents to write you a little note saying that I can't do PE today because they're not feeling very well. Hukam doesn't work like that, because every being, animate or inanimate, is bound by that same hukam. And for that reason, as Sikhs, what we have to recognise is that hukam now is then the most important thing for us. Recognising that what we have in our lives is really all culminating, working towards what that hukam is, working towards making us better people so that we can follow that hukam.
Yeah, so the theme of hukam follows through from the second body into the third body, and towards the end of the last two tukkah of the third body say hukami hukam chalaye raho nanak vikse ve parvav. That's probably just why you can't see the screen today, because I asked a question. So what is hukam? We said it was command.
Yeah.
So who is the hukami? Hanji?
Vaheguru.
Okay, so Vaheguru is the hukami, who's the commander. The hukam is the command. And Chalaye Rao. What is a Ra? ke sara jana. What does that mean? Hanji.
Does it mean keep?
Not keep, yeah. Hanji. Sorry?
Road.
Road.
Route.
Route, yeah. Good. Route. Route is good, yeah. Route, path,
The way.
yeah. So, the hukmi, through his hukam, says this is the path. As we said, we have no option. So we're in this world. So what we do in this world, then we have some element of flexibility. But the hukam is absolute in that we're in this world, and the only way to get out of it is to follow the hukam. So, Jalai means we say Gaddi Jalai Diya. So we drive the path, or Vaheguru, the hukmi, drives the path. So the path is that we're in this world. And Vaheguru, having created the universe and created everything in it, is in it in his Sadgun Swarup, but he also sits back in his Nirgun Swarup, and in the next bit, Nanak Sahib says, Nanak Vikse Ve Parval. Now, what does Ve Parval mean?
If you described a person as being Veparwa, what could you describe that person as being?
Right? So, you know what Parva means?
Menuni Parwa. Yes, thank you.
Care, very good. Veparva is somebody who's carefree. Parva means to have a care. So I see you giggling because your parents probably say, "Tusi ta parva nahi karte." Yeah, that you don't listen. You're carefree. You don't seem to care about what we tell you. You don't do this and you don't do that. So it's a bit like that. But Vaheguru is Veparva, not from the point that he doesn't care, but he doesn't need to worry about everything because everything is in his hukam. So if something's happening anywhere in the universe, he's already set that out. That with one word, with one sound, the whole universe will be created. That was his hukam. He then sits back. It's a bit like when you see children making a game from Lego, or making a railway track, or a railway game, or a stray electric game, and they build it all together, and they sit back and they look back at it and goes, I've done well there. Vaheguru's a bit like that. He's created his universe, and he's Veparva, knowing that the hukam is working and making everything work. So Nanak Vikse Veparva. What does Vikse mean? So let's try Nanak Bhaktan Sada together.
Vigas.
What does Vigas mean? Because Vikse comes from Vigas. Do you know? Okay. We'll do a new glossary with some of the new words, because there's some new words coming now out. So Vikse means to be joyful or to be happy. So Vaheguru here, Guru Nanak Sahib says, Hukmi hukam chalaya raho Nanak Vikse Veparva. The Veparva hukmi is sitting happily, joyfully, watching everything that goes on. So the hukam continues into the third body, but it links. Vaheguru is the hukmi. So
interesting then, we talk about Vaheguru being being in a carefree mindset, and him being in a joyful mindset. But then also Guru Nanak Dev Ji says Nanak Bhagatan Sada Vigas. So that same Vigas that Vaheguru is in, Guru Nanak says that his bhagats, his worshippers, are in that same state. And today what we will talk about later on is how some of the virtues, the virtues that Vaheguru has, becomes our virtues. When we follow Vaheguru, we become like Vaheguru. So when we say Vaheguru is compassionate, the indication then is that we have to become compassionate. Yeah. So Vaheguru is Vikse, is joyful. Vaheguru's bhagats who follow that same Vaheguru are then become joyful as well. So that's something that we'll talk about a little bit later on today. But just remember that thought that Vaheguru's virtues aren't just Vaheguru's virtues, just for us to observe. They're virtues that we should try to become close to as well.
okay, so hukam can be a difficult concept to understand, because I think last time Jaspreet didn't come to this, and then I rang her on the phone later in the end. We were on the phone for about an hour arguing about what hukam was. Well, not arguing, debating. Because I was of the view that you have some free will. She was saying that no, everything's... And so we will never get to a point where people will absolutely decide what hukam is. Everybody will have a viewpoint. But other than to say that Vaheguru is the hukami, The human is not the Karta, Vaheguru is the Karta. Therefore, the Hukam of Vaheguru is absolute. So, whichever way we go, we need to follow whatever instruction Vaheguru gives us. So, in order to understand Vaheguru, if Vaheguru has a Hukam, and we need to understand the Hukam, because what was the talk was, yeah, that we have to understand. Nanak Hukam hai je bujh hai, ta homme kehna koi. So we said last time that man or mankind is prone to homme, I am, because he forgets that Vaheguru is the Karta and starts to believe that I am the Karta. So the free will bit goes a bit too far, where people say there is no God, I can do what I want to do, and there's no consequence. But Vaheguru and Guru Nanak Dev Ji says there is a consequence of all your actions. Yeah, karmi apo apani ke nere ke dur. Some get close to Vaheguru, some go far. Now, some of our where we start in life, where we are, and everything we have, and our spiritual journey at the start of our life is sometimes dictated by what's happened in our previous lives.
Yeah.
So,
So somebody once explained that concept a bit like you start back where you left off. So somebody described it as like painting your house. So you start painting a room and you paint 2 walls and you make a start on that 3rd wall in your house, in your room. But your time is up. And I've heard some scholars, some Sikhs say that our lives are a bit like that. That whatever karma that we've done in our previous life, the good things that we've done, the bhakti that we've done, should mean that in our next life we are that much further forward. So we've already painted 2 walls. We're now halfway through the 3rd wall. So that's why some people say, oh yeah, sadhe karma in this lifetime to become mocked with Vaheguru. But Guru Nanak Dev Ji tells us that all our efforts in anything that we do is positive is actually a good thing. It's actually taking us that much closer, one step closer to Vaheguru. Even if there are still so many steps to take, you are that much closer to it. So that's the reason why we're talking about how the sort of closeness or the distance is important. And also our starting point isn't always the same. That you might say, well, why is so and so got so much spiritual awareness in a young age? Well, you don't know what their previous life was about. They painted their 2 walls, they're onto their 3rd, and you might just have started your 1st wall. So that's the reason. So
okay, yeah. So everybody then, so remember we said that Jap Ji Sahib was part of a conversation between the Siddhs and Guru Nanak Sahib Ji. So the Siddhs are saying to Guru Nanak Sahib Ji, okay, we understand that we have to accept the Hukam of Vaheguru. But who is Vaheguru? How do we attain Vaheguru? So in this 3rd Pauri, and Guru Nanak Sahib explained that if you think you're going to understand Vaheguru, or put Vaheguru in a box and say, I fully comprehend what Vaheguru is, therefore I've done it, you're not going to achieve anything. With Vaheguru, all you can do is sing Vaheguru's virtues, and we'll come on to that. But if we said that you wanted to get the whole of the sun into your house, could you do that? Can anybody get the whole sun into their house? Why not?
It's too big.
Too big. Anything else?
Because it's too big, it could fit every planet
Yeah.
inside.
Good. Yeah, Hanji.
Can't touch sun.
Can't touch why?
It's too hot.
It's a bit hot, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So Vaheguru is a bit like in that example. If we said that we want to comprehend Vaheguru fully, we're not going to, because it's like trying to get the sun into our house. So what do we do to get some of the sun in our house? What do we do? Hanji. Go Prahlad Singh. I'll ask Prahlad Singh.
We comprehend a bit about him.
Good call. We comprehend a little bit. I like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It's not in there, is it? You're reading Charlie and the Chocolate Factory last. Yeah, okay. Okay. Good. You comprehend a little bit of Vaheguru. And the way you comprehend a little bit of Vaheguru is like saying, well, if it was a summer's day today and it might be hot, we can't get all of the sun in through the window. We'll let a little bit of the sun in. We might even put some awnings on to stop the sun being too bright, or we might have some blinds to let a little bit of, but we get a little bit of the benefit of the sun. In this country, it's awful because we get to winter and we lack sun. And scientists have said there's even a deficiency order where we don't get enough light in our life. Okay, so that's one. So another example is, can you get the whole of the ocean in your house? Why? Hanji.
You might not be able to read because the water might go into your lungs.
Yeah, that's one thing. Yeah, but even once again, the same answer as before. The ocean is too big. Yeah. So if we wanted in our garden, so let's call the garden part of our house. If we wanted some rain in our house, what happens? We let some water into our gardens by letting it rain. Well, we don't have a choice in that, or we use a hose pipe. So we get some water. So the example here is that we can try and understand God in small bits. And even small bits will do a lot. Because the idea isn't, and there are people who have tried to understand all of God and failed. And we'll talk about those people as well. Okay, so Vaheguru is too big to comprehend. So we take a small part of Vaheguru, and in our minds, in our house, in our house, the form of our mind as our house in our example, we do that. Now, when we look at when we try to understand the third body, how does the third body start? Anybody
More
else?
hands?
Different hands? Hands, what? Hanji. No, we can go after that one. Go on then. You just.
Gawe Gordon.
Okay. Gawe Kotan. Then we stop. We'll just stop there. Gawe Kotan. Now, Guru Nanak Dev Ji in this body describes the different ways where people try to take different concepts of God to understand God. So the first one is Gawe Kotan. Kotan ki hunda? Apart from you.
Dan is a fairly recurring concept in
Johnson?
Bali.
Dan? Dana? Arjun? No. Jaspreet? Okay. Metan Divan. Have you ever heard that? Dan is very good. So it's good to try and understand Jap Ji Sahib. Because Jap Ji Sahib, when we get to a word, apart from Jujal Singh who's going to tell us, what does Dan mean?
Strength.
How do you know?
I did basics of Sikh 3rd and 4th border before.
Shabash.
Oh,
I wish we. Did anybody else do basics of Sikh 3 and 4 before we came? Hang on, that's something.
Yeah.
Good man. Okay. Gawe Kotan. Gawe means to. You know all this one. You don't need to watch basic Sikh to know that. Gawe means to sing. To sing. Gawe ko, some sing of God's strength. And then the second part says, Hove kise tan. Now other words for tan. So in our new glossary we're gonna have tan in there. Another word for tan in Punjabi. Shh. Shakti. Anything else? Jor. Yeah. All different words. And when you look at Bani deeper and deeper, when you hear different shabds, you come across words that mean similar or like things. So, Tan, Shakti, Jor, there's others as well, that all mean the same. So some try to worship Vaheguru by saying that Vaheguru is Tan, Vaheguru is a Shakti, Vaheguru is a power. But in order to sing that way, humans also understand that they have to have some sort of Tan, some sort of strength themselves. So Gawe ko Tan, but Hove ke se Tan. Now if somebody doesn't have the Tan, now the Tan can be intellectual, buddhi, strength. It could be the ability to be able to do Simran, or the ability to do Bart, or to do Kirtan. So some people may not have a particular skill set in order to do that, so we might call that a Tan. So, that's why Vaheguru, so some people see Vaheguru as a Tan, as a Jor. Now this was one school of thought. Now, your turn to think again. What sort of things can we say is Vaheguru as Dhan?
What's an example of Waheguru's Dhan?
Hanji?
Is magic
Yeah. What sort of magic? Hanji?
all creation?
All of creation. Yeah. If
Oh,
we,
yeah, so the creation itself, but then the sustenance of that creation. So Waheguru is created, but then also set his hukum so that that creation can then continue, can then evolve,
So
can
what-
become.
yeah. So what happens every day? Not here, but in other places. Hanji? At the start of the day, what happens? What should happen?
You wake up,
You wake up, but what happens? What's happening in the solar system? What's happening at rather individual level? Hanji?
the sun goes up,
The sun goes up, and what happens in the evening?
sun goes down.
The sun goes down, and in between the sun moves, or the sun doesn't necessarily move. We go around, but and then what happens to the wind? Is the wind at dawn?
Yes.
Yeah. So the flowing of the wind, the growing of the forest and the vegetations, people being born and people being dying, is all Dhan, all Vaheguru's Dhan. So some people sing Vaheguru's praises by saying Gave ko Dhan, but if they have Dhan, Hove ke se Dhan. So they see Vaheguru as Dhan. So we've just given the description there of Dhan. But the different ways of describing Vaheguru, the other bit that Guru Maharaj says before this, is about the different ways of worshipping Vaheguru, is something called Katha. So what are we doing now? Well, it's not proper Katha, but what are we doing now? Oh look, it only took 20 minutes. That was Vaheguru's Dhan. Okay, Hanji.
Doing the meaning of Jap Ji Sahib.
Meaning of Japsa. So, and what do we call that? Sometimes, you know, when you have somebody on television and they're talking about Bart and with it's at the Gurdwara, what do they call that?
Vichar.
Which are something else with Gatha. Yeah? So Gatha. With Gatha, we said in Jap Ji Sahib, just before that last two talks, the penultimate is Kathana Kathina Ave Tot Kat Kat Kathi Koti Kot Kot. Now, some people, when they try to describe God, think that they will do it. But there's been Katha of Vaheguru going on for hundreds and thousands of years, and different people have tried to preach about a God in different ways. But they have not been able to do it. Because what happens is, there's no thought, there's no stop, there's no end to Vaheguru. And that's what the that's what the Katana Katina Ave thought means, that the Kathani of Vaheguru cannot end. Yeah? Kat Kat Kati Koti Kot Kot. The more Katha we do, the many millions more areas that we haven't discovered and haven't done. So whilst one area is Vaheguru is a Dhan, that Vaheguru is a Shakti, Vaheguru is a power, and we sing Vaheguru's praises by saying, you are a Dhan, that we recognize in your nature, your Dhan, your strength. So we take one Dhan. So, what's the next bit? Let's put the slides on now, we got them.
Yeah, so what, a bit like we did when we done previous Dukka, to understand the Pauri that we're talking about, the Garlic or Dhan body, it's important for us to talk about Gatana Gatina Avid thought. That this then is the najor, if you like, is the understanding, if you like, that people have got various different ways of describing Vaheguru, and people have been doing it for a very, very long time. But in the end, it's a recognition that we as mortals will end, but Vaheguru's Katha, Vaheguru's description, Vaheguru's praises will continue forever. So that's why it's important for us to start with that point, that doc is the najor, is the meaning, if you like, of what the previous lines talk about when we talk about Karmik Ustan and the lines that follow.
Okay, so Katha or Kathani means to preach or describe, yeah?
Yeah.
So, right.
Contemplate as well. So if you remember, Guru Arjan Dev Ji gives Katha huge significance. Does anybody know in Sukhmani Sahib where Guru Arjan Dev Ji mentions the importance of Katha? Sabte
Uttam
Har Ki
Ki Sabte Uttam Har Ki Katha. So doing Katha of Vaheguru is very high.
in fact is the highest thing. So the indication that Guru Maharaj has given us is that we devote our lives on doing Gatha. Now, I'm not saying that we're all going to become Sansing Maskeen and become Kathakars of that reputation and that repute. We're talking about doing Gatha so that we, in our own minds, can understand Waheguru and become closer to Waheguru and to contemplate Waheguru. That's what the instruction is not to become Bacharaks in that particular sort of narrow definition, but to be people that continuously and constantly strive to understand and to become closer to Waheguru.
Okay. So that bit was important to say as well before we carry on. So the first viewpoint, sorry boys, what happened was it turned on itself.
Let's go that way.
Got you out of class for 20 minutes. Okay. So the viewpoint one, how is God worshipped? Viewpoint one is God is a Shakti, God is Dhan, God is power. And therefore we say, Gave ko Dhan, hove ke se Dhan. Now, more than that, when we do Ardas, Guru Gobind Singh Ji also recognizes Vaheguru as a Dhan and a Shakti. And he says, Sri Bhagavati Ji Sahib. Because Sri Bhagavati is a sword, is a power of God. Furthermore, Pratham Bhagavati Simarke, Guru Nanak Lai Dhyay. So we in our understanding also say that Vaheguru is a Dhan, is a Shakti. And in our Khalsa form in particular, and when we, I think last January when you did Shastra Namala Vichyo, yeah? About how Guru Gobind Singh Ji describes God as various weapons. Also in Jap Ji Sahib, a bit further down, so whenever you see Dhan now, you'll absolutely know that Dhan means power. Keta Dhan. So when describing nature, Guru Nanak Dev Ji says in Jap Ji Sahib, Keta Dhan Swali Haru. What power of creation? Keta Dhan Swali Haru, Keti Daat Jane Kaun Koot. We just don't know about how far God's power goes, how great and how many and varied Vaheguru's gifts are. Yeah? So we go on to say, Kita Pasawe Kokawao, Tiste Hoi Laktariyo. So through one sound, Vaheguru created the creation, and it continues to grow and carry on. So the first point we make here in this body is that the Gatha of Vaheguru cannot be completed. That the Hukmi is still making everything happen, but we can take parts of Vaheguru and sing the praises of Vaheguru in particular ways. So one way is to sing about God's Shakti or God's Dhan. So the second viewpoint is that God is a giver of gifts. So this time, because now you can see the screen, so I'll give you the answer before we start. So Gave ko Daat, what's a Daat? Daat ki hindi? Oh, sorry, I didn't see your hand. Gifts. Yeah. What's one of the names we give to Vaheguru? That sounds like Daat. Hanji? Data.
Data, Datar. Yeah.
Data, Data. Yeah. Dada, Data. Ek hai. Sabko? Yeah. So we get data. Wherever we hear data, now data in English, when we say data, is when you collect things together. And Vaheguru is just, the word actually derives from data.
Yeah, it's actually a Greek word, data is. Data in Greek actually means to give. So the description of data as the giver is no great surprise. Yeah, so we'll talk about language because I think that's appropriate later, isn't it?
Yeah. So tu data, tera ditta, kavana. So kavana and data sometimes concern. So data, some people now say they recognize and worship God as being a data. So some people recognize Vaheguru as a Shakti, as a Dhan. Some recognise Vaheguru as a Dhat or as a Data. And its second part says Jane Nisan. What's Nishan or Nisan? If I give you a Nishani, what does that mean? If I say you were going away, leaving this country to go away for about 10 years, but because you're great friends with them.
Don't even go that far.
Okay.
But go when you start driving cars, what do you follow? What sort of things do you see, Angie? And signs.
Signs. Okay. So signs are indications that tell you something.
Yeah.
So Gave ko Dhat Jane Nisan. Now we have lovely houses, do we not, sir? All of you? Nice? Sonia Gadiya? Nice clothes? Yeah? We get to do fun things. We have lots. What else has God given us? Hanji? Or? Tell me everything that Vaheguru has given you. Hanji?
Eyes.
Eyes? Or?
Yeah.
Hair? Or?
A gunnet, in other words.
Done. Everything we have that we haven't bought from a shop is Vaheguru's Dhat. And Vaheguru gives us data all the time. Yeah? He keeps giving. And he's not just giving like now at this moment. He's been doing it Juga Jugantar. For ages and ages, and from when the creation has started, Vaheguru has been giving Dhat. So people in their everyday lives say, we should thank Vaheguru because we have this. And there's equally some people who have totally forgotten this, and they remember the Dhat and forget the Data. So people come obsessed with their wealth, with their cars, with their homes, with their clothes,
Yeah.
with their branded goods, and they forget Vaheguru, who is the Data.
So if you read this doc as a single doc, the understanding that we get is that the instruction that we are given here is that we remember the data by remembering and seeing the things around us, looking at the signs around us, the signs that we've said, that all the things that we've got. So some people recognize Vaheguru through the gifts, and those gifts are around us. Those signs that we have are those gifts.
Okay. So when we read the talk of Gave ko Dhat Jane Nisan, we remember Vaheguru through the Nishaniya or through the gifts that we've received by what we see every day. And to make the point, gone too far, it says here that Vaheguru gives us, yeah, Anamangya. We don't even ask and we get gifts. Now we might not be grateful for these gifts, that's a different thing, and that comes later, yeah, but Vaheguru is giving us gifts all the time. Air to breathe, to convert that into oxygen that goes into making our blood, and the blood circulates, and the rest of our bodies then grow. I know some of you've got better biological descriptions than that, but you get the point. You've all done biology to some level now. Okay, so there's two things here now. Now, the thinking of the time, and remember we said that at the time, we said what other thought processes were around. Now, the first process that we talked about there,
Yeah, so one of the things that we talked about was when we understand Jap Ji Sahib, we need to understand the language, the concepts, the thoughts that people had in those times. Because a lot of the language that Guru Nanak Dev Ji uses in Jap Ji Sahib is a recognition that people understand, people already know certain things, their understanding is built in a certain way. So descriptions that you see in Jap Ji Sahib are based on people's understanding of that time, and hence the reason why we talked about that program at the beginning of Jap Ji Sahib. What were the thoughts? What were people's concepts around at that time? For us to understand those, we can then understand Jap Ji Sahib that much better.
Okay, so one of the things in the world is that sometimes you hear people say people have different views of the world. Now, in Punjabi, there's a word called dristi. What dristi mean? Ji?
View.
View. And what srishti mean? Srist, Hanji? The world, yeah. So, our dristi is our viewpoint, or what we see. the Srishti Jakarta Sriti Ko Sajje, yeah, you'll see it in different ways, yeah, sometimes. But when the Srist is the world. Now, we might see the world slightly different to you because we're a generation older. Your grandparents see the world slightly differently because they're 2 generations away. And some people living in different countries might view the world in a different way than we do. So everybody's drishti is coloured by what's around them. And as we often talk about, and we talked about the creation, and we said that in the 30th Pauri, Guru Nanak Dev Ji says, Ekta Mai Yukta Ve Ten Chelle Parwan. Who were those 10 chelle? Okay.
Yeah, but what
What are
do
the
we know?
names?
Yeah.
The names?
Brahma,
And Shiv, yeah. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiv, yeah. Now, the words there, so I'm glad you did say the next bit. I was trying to draw that out as well. Ik Pandari, Ik Sansari, Ik Laya Divan. Now, the viewpoints, the first viewpoint, the Sansari was Brahma. What's Brahma recognized as being? Anji,
Yeah.
the creator. So his viewpoint on everything was about God's creation. And Vishnu was what's he renowned for? Somebody else? Anji. Sustaining. So he's of that viewpoint we've just described, the Data. Because the darts we need to sustain ourselves and be part of.
and hence the word Bandari.
And yeah, so Pandar means a treasury or a store. Yeah. Asan loy loy Pandar, jo kuch paso ekava. Now Vaheguru has a Pandar. And that Pandar he is distributing from without ever having to go shopping. And Vaheguru doesn't have to go to Sainsbury's on a Friday because all those rations have run out. He doesn't even have to go to a big distribution centre. His Pandar was filled once. And from there, it will forever keep giving. So Shivji, Vishnu had this view that Vaheguru he's known as the Pandari because he thinks that God keeps giving. God is a giver. And he worshipped God as a giver, as somebody who gave Dhan. Now Brahma had that view about the Dhan because he said God was creative. Now Brahma is sometimes, how many heads do they say Brahma has? Is this in the video as well? No, you're just having a guess. Go on then.
Is it 10?
No, that was Ravan. Hanji.
3.
3. We had one other one as well. How many? 4. 4 is the right answer. Yeah. Sometimes they say that Brahma had 4 heads. Now whether he had 4 heads or not, I don't know. But he certainly had the intellect of 4 people. And even with Ravan, he didn't really have 10 heads. He had the intellect of 10 people.
Or the knowledge of the Jar Ved. That's the other way of interpreting that as well.
So get rid of that slide. So Brahma came also about this third viewpoint that sing about the greatness of God's creation, his God, his virtues, and also sing about difficult knowledge. Now we'll come on to that.
So Brahma is known as being philosophical, being a philosopher, somebody who's trying to gain a deep understanding of Vaheguru's creation. And our understanding of Brahma is that Brahma spent his whole life trying to understand Vaheguru's creation. That was his life's work. And at the end of it, he was frustrated, and we'll talk about that in a little while. But this is about Brahma's drishti, Brahma's viewpoint is understanding creation and the depth of that creation and the interconnectivity of that creation as well.
Yeah. So Brahma saw everything as being created, and he wanted to find out and understand more about Vaheguru. So it is said then, Guru Nanak Dev now says, Gave ko gun vadaiyan char. Char means beautiful, sundar, nice. So Brahma and some others who follow his viewpoint, they sing God, or they sing God's virtues from a vadaiya, from his virtues. God is merciful, God is kind, God is graceful, God is the creator, God does everything. How does the body function? How do trees grow? How does vegetation grow? How do animals behave the way that they behave? And Brahma, as you heard, was a philosopher. He wanted to deeply understand things. Now, that's why in this body it says, Gave ko gun. Gun means? What's gun mean? Hanji?
Gun.
No, not that sort of gun. No, something else. Punjabi?
Virtues.
Virtues. Yeah. Jere gun on this. If I say you have good gun, you have good virtues. Change gun. And here we're talking about Gave ko gun vadayaiyan char. The something of God's great gun, His beautiful, His sundar vadayaiyan. And equally, Brahma also Gave ko vidya vikam vichar. Three vave. Vichar is what did you say? What did we say that Brahma was? And philosophical. So, and vichar means two. We said this before many times. Vichar, specific. Huh?
Grace.
So, no.
Contemplate.
Contemplate, yeah. Vichar means to contemplate. What does a philosopher do? Hanji?
Did he sustain?
No. Somebody, Hanji Hart,
Thinks on matters of the world and predicts
thinks about things, yeah. So when somebody's a philosopher, they want to delve deeply into things and the understanding of things, yeah. So Gave ko vidya. What's vidya? You all know what vidya is. Why do you go to school? To get vidya. What's vidya?
education.
Similar.
Knowledge.
Knowledge. Vidya is knowledge. Yeah? And Vikam or Bikam. What does Vikam mean or Bikam? Marg Panthana Jano Bikhada means, Bikhada means, Chastri,
The opposite of easy.
difficult.
Yeah.
Anything that is Vikam or Bikam is difficult. Yeah? Bhagtan ki chal narali, chala narali, bhagtahan keri, Bikam marg chalana. The Bhagts walk on a difficult path. Yeah? So Bikam or Vikam means difficult. Now this third viewpoint says that some people remember Vaheguru and sing about Vaheguru by singing his Vidya Vikamachar. And we said Brahma dedicated his whole life, and I don't know how old Brahma was, I've not done the research, I haven't become a philosopher to try and deep, but Brahma is known to have researched the world. So Brahma wanted to know, where did God come from? Where does God reside? How does God's creation work? How did time start? How do crops grow? How do the trees grow? Why do trees lose their leaves in the winter, then grow back? And then how does the whole thing work? He then looked up and he saw the stars and the planets. And he wanted to know, how do the stars and planets do what the stars and planets do? Why is the sun hot? What orbits what? How big is the universe? Which galaxies exist? All the stars, all the comets.
Not forgetting how sound works.
And he wanted to know how sound worked. And he said there are 7 sounds. And I think on the Bhaja, I think there's 7 main sounds. Then you can mix them more. And then he said there's, how many colours? I forget.
How many
9
primary colours are there?
primary colours up then. 3, yeah. But how many colours are there altogether?
What happens to those primary colours? What can you do with them?
Mix. Mix.
So, when we say Kat Kati Koti Kot Kot, Brahma was one of these Katha who did Katha of Vaheguru. And he did all of this. The reason why I picked that picture, because in this shop it says, Nal Katamb, together with his family, Katamb, he had their Saath, Vardata. Brahma Palan Srist Gaya. Brahma decided that he would go and try and understand Vaheguru, the universe and the world. How many sons did Brahma have? I think it was 4. 2 of them are Sanaka and Sanatan. And in another shab, Maharaj says, Sanaka Sanatan Anta nahi paya. They could not find the limits of Vaheguru. Brahma takes his family and all his close people and he tries to understand Vaheguru. But Brahma could not find the end or the limit of Vaheguru. Ved pare par Brahma janma gavaya. Brahma exhausted his life. Despite being intellectual, despite being a philosopher, despite doing lots of Khoj and detailed analysis of things, Brahma says, I cannot find God's answer.
I think this one's for our Dasan Bani experts. What does that doc say? Dasan Bani experts?
George Link. What does that say?
Brahma Bisan Antony Bio Ned Mukjar Badai.
And that means?
So
Oh, your sister's laughing at you. What does that mean?
Brahma and Vishnu couldn't know his end. The four-headed god Brahma described him as Niti Niti, not this, not this.
So we said that Brahma has 4 heads. Now, those 4 heads, one were he had to have 4 heads just to store all that knowledge that he was gaining. But also, we've said that at the end of Brahma's life, Brahma says, I've only just scratched the surface here. I've devoted my whole life, my whole family, and yet there's more that I don't know that I know. And he likened it a little bit like, he said it's a bit like me going up to the ocean and just taking a spoonful of water out of it. That's what I've got. That's my knowledge. And at the end of it, Brahma is now saying, Net, Net. With all his four faces, he's just saying, not like this. None is like Vaheguru. None is like Vaheguru. None is like Vaheguru. None is like Vaheguru. Net, Net. Not this, not this. So it's an acknowledgement that even Brahma, with his huge intellect, could not even begin to understand Vaheguru.
Okay, so the secret here is not to try and quantify Vaheguru, but is to just sing Vaheguru's praises. And Brahma went into Vismar, he went into submission, and Brahma went into Samadhi, and he just started to praise Vaheguru. Because he tried to find Vaheguru's ant, or Vaheguru's end, and in the end he said, Net, Net, I can't. This is not Vaheguru, this is not. All I can do is sing Vaheguru's praises. So, Gave ko gun vadiyaiyan chah. Gave ko vidya vikham vichar. And then there's another viewpoint. Did that really happen that quick? Oh yeah. That's right, yeah. Gave ko jiye le fir de. What's G? We all G junts. What are we? What do we have in us that keeps us here? Life. Who gives us that life? Vaheguru. So some Gave ko, somebody who gives G. But what does Vaheguru do after he gives us G? What happens at the end?
You die.
And how is that described here? Fear. If I say to my dog, I have my phone, and I say give it back. पहले मैं तुम देता, फिर मैं ले लिया. It's not yours to keep. It's mine. Okay? Gave ko G. So he gives us G, he gives us life. फिर ले. Then he takes it. Now this was another viewpoint. Ik Sansarik Pandari we've done. This is the third viewpoint. God creates and destroys. Which of that then, Chile Parwan, is associated with the D word? Hanji. Shiv. Shivji. So, Shivji has a different viewpoint to the others.
Just before we mention Shiv, there are different descriptions of Shiv in Bani as well. There's Mahesh, that's one.
They're on beginning with S, do we know?
Shankar. Yeah, so Shiv, Shankar, Mahesh. all mean the same thing.
Okay, so Shiv saw death. If you said to Shiv, you got to drink, of course you haven't you? Yeah, I don't mean it. If you asked Shiva, he would say, between two dark nights there is only one day. Between two horrible, nasty, dark nights is one day. If you ask Vishnu, he would say, between two beautiful lit days is one dark night. He saw the same reality from a different viewpoint. Now, when you see pictures, the reason I introduced a picture of Shiv, or Lord Shiv, or Shiva, Mahesh, Shankar, he has some attributes. What do we know about Shiva? As we said, Brahma had 4 heads. What do we know about Shiv? Anji?
He needs one head.
He did only have the one head.
What's he got round his neck?
Snake.
Snakes? Anything else? Can you see somebody else whose eyesight's good? Here? All together? Skulls.
Yeah.
Shiv was all about death.
So what was one of the, or what is one of the things that people are mortally scared of? Andy? Dying, but also I'm talking about a particular type of animal that we've just described around his neck. Snakes. Yeah. So anything that reminds us of death, and in this case people were terrified of snakes and still are, anything that reminds us of death, Shivji's wearing around his neck. Death itself, skulls. I mean, how much closer can you be to this idea that we're all going to disappear from this world?
Now, so Shivji worshipped God from that perspective. Gave ko saaj kare tan ke. Gave ko ji le hirday. Vaheguru he saw as giving life. Yeah? First he creates, then he turns it into dust. So a human being is cremated or buried and they're turned to dust. And then Vaheguru has given life and taken life away. And some worship Vaheguru from that perspective, that he's the giver of life, but equally he's the taker of life, that everything belongs to him. And some people worship God from the view that God is Gave ko Jap Ji Sahib. That God is not here, God is over there. And equally people have the view Gave ko Veke Hadra Hadu, that God is within us, right next to us. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji and Guru Gobind say all of these are correct. There's nothing. God is here and he is there. And he is the creator of life and he is the creator of death, or the bringer of death. He is the virtues. He is the Tan and the Shakti. And it matters not, because people for years and years have been talking about Vaheguru. Katana Kati na ave God. We've spoken for about an hour nearly. People talk about hours, days, months, years. Kata Kata Kati Koti Koti. There's millions and millions of sermons and stories and parts of God Brahma gave up. And such is Vaheguru. He is Devda De, laid there thak. People thak jande. That doesn't mean become they weary. They die. Brahma died. Millions of people have been doing Katha and Kathani of Vaheguru. But guess what? They take Vaheguru's darts. They take Vaheguru's gifts. They try to describe God. But God keeps giving and people keep dying. Juga Jigantar Khai Khai. For throughout the ages, we talk about, I think we did one of the programs, we said how long each of the ages were. Yeah, many hundreds of thousands of years. And during those times, people have been consuming from Vaheguru. God has been giving data, he's been giving gifts. But in the end, yeah, people keep consuming and they extinguish themselves and more people come. And Vaheguru's Pandar is still giving, yeah. And then we come back to where we started. Hukmi hukam chalaye raho, nanak vikse vipal. That the carefree Vaheguru sits back happily, joyfully, just witnessing everything that's going on. And people sing his praises in different ways. So the third body is about the different ways and the different viewpoints of how people worship and why people worship God. They're all right in their own way, in their own ways, yeah. But Vaheguru is complete. There's different ways of describing Vaheguru. So the other viewpoints that we didn't cover, obviously there's Islamic viewpoint, there's the Buddhist viewpoint, the Jain viewpoint, yeah. In the end, yeah, I mean, Buddha led a very protected life as a prince. He'd never encountered death or dying. And the first time he encountered death, he wanted to have nothing to do with the world. So that's for a different time. So we're probably getting close to break. So what we'll do is, does that help your understanding of the third body? Yeah. So when you go back, as I said, that's not necessarily the right answer, because there's never a right answer to Bani. It's all about, we can all try and understand a little bit more. But Vaheguru can be sung, and the worship of Vaheguru can happen in different ways. So we'll take a break now. So after the break we'll have one shabd, which is about singing about the virtues of God, or singing the Kirti of God, the praise of God, which we do, which is what we need to do. So let's take 5 minutes, and then the last 20 minutes what we'll probably do is start on the fourth body, in terms of just setting the scene and talking about the concepts in the fourth body. Okay, break.
Hare Jai Bol
Okay, thank you for that. So we listened to the shabd which was linked to singing the praises of Vaheguru. Har jan bolat Sri Ram Nama Milsad Sangat Harat Ho. So singing in the sitting in the Sangat, we can sing the praises of Vaheguru, which links in with what we talked about. Kirat Parab ki gao meri rasna. Yeah, that is one way of singing the praises of Vaheguru through Kirtan. Another way of doing part, we can do Nam Siman. Many and various ways of reaching Vaheguru.
Okay, so we're going to kick into Okay, so we're going to make a start on the fourth Pauri now. We'll do the main part of this next time, because what we don't want to do is just rush through it quickly. Now, the starting point really is to pick up where we've just left off. So we've said that the Hukmi, or the commander, Waheguru, sees his creation and gains a lot of joy, a lot of happiness from seeing that creation. What now follows in the following verses is now a description of what that Hukmi is. So the starting point is Sacha Sahib Sachanai Bakhya Bao Apar. Okay, so we won't go to any level of detail here, but there are some really important concepts here. Is things like an understanding of Sacha Sahib here. Who is Sacha Sahib, or what is Sacha Sahib? Because when we as mortals have something, we think that we are the owners of it. And an example often that's given of that is people with their houses. Now, particularly in India, people have this idea that if you own a house, you like to put your name outside it, and you'll say that this property belongs to this person. Now, in the Sikhi and in the world of Dharma, our understanding is that Sacha Sahib Ekko hai, Waheguru is the Sacha Sahib, because after a while, in the example of a mere mortal, that sign that's sort of saying this house belongs to person X, that becomes redundant, because that person passes away and somebody else then becomes the owner of that house. So in essence, Sacha Sahib is only Waheguru, because Waheguru's creation is perpetual, is here forever. Waheguru's Naam is also here forever. The other concept that I just wanted to just touch upon is Bakhya Bao Apar. Now, Guru Nanak Dev Ji is introducing this concept of language. Bakhya means language. And the language that Guru Nanak Dev Ji is talking about is the language of Bao. Bao means love. Bao means pyar. But it's a very different sort of pyar, because in worldly pyar is often seen as a give and take. But in the dharmic pyar, Bao is one way, is only one directional. Because Waheguru's pyar for us is not even asked for. Waheguru just gives us pyar. Whereas in the world, in worldly pyar is often a case of give and take. So that's another idea we'll explore in some detail next time.
Yeah. So the example of that is when we heard about somebody owning a house. Now, when somebody owns a house, if the owner of that house dies, does that house cry for the owner? No. But if that house gets destroyed, does the owner cry, Mera ghar teh gaya?
Yes, probably.
Yes. So we cry because our love in that particular way is actually, we have love for that house, but that house doesn't necessarily have love for us. But Waheguru loves everybody regardless, whether we worship God or whether we don't. Waheguru still loves us. Now, within the hukum, those that do worship Waheguru will have a better result than those people that don't. But
then on the subject of language, now within Judaism, Jews believe that if you don't teach a child any language, the language that they will naturally start speaking is Hebrew. within the Islamic religion, they believe that Allah's language is Arabic. Within Buddhism, they believe that the language of religion, of Dharma, is Pali. So, religious people have their own view of what the language of Waheguru is. Now, Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying that this idea that people have that Waheguru is limited to one language is wrong. Guru Nanak Dev Ji is talking about Waheguru having a universal language, having a language that that Waheguru understands. Now, Waheguru can understand our language, but we are limited in our understanding of Waheguru, because our limited understanding of Waheguru's love is what limits our ability to then be able to understand Waheguru. So this idea of unconditional love, Guru Nanak Dev Ji gave us numerous examples. Now, when we go downstairs and we share langar, that's unconditional love, that is. Because when we place in front our thal, that thal will be full. That thal will be provided. That, food will be provided for us. That's Guru Nanak Dev Ji's unconditional love. Because Guru Nanak Dev Ji didn't say, that the person that cannot have langar